Have you ever felt that you're doing all the right things and you still feel stuck? I mean, that disconnect, it can be where most people give up. And not because they don't want to change, it's really because they haven't gotten, let's call it radically honest about the gap that they're in. Just where, the gap between where they say they want to go and where they're at. There's a gap there. And that gap can feel really heavy, especially when you don't have clarity. But if you give yourself the right perspective, it really becomes a tool. And that's where this episode ties in perfectly into. There's a book out there called The Gap and the Gain. If you've read it, you know the difference between measuring, just between measuring forward and measuring backwards. But that's what's missing for many people. It isn't just the perspective shift. It's really having someone help you close the gap and living more in the gain. So we're going to talk about that today. Before we get into all this great stuff, make sure you head over to talktoperry.com. You knew I was going to say that, right? If you're watching on our YouTube channel, you can see that down in the lower third. If you're catching it on the audio replay, Talk to Perry is easy to listen or easy to remember, because that's where you can go over and recharge. I consider, like, hey, many of us, we go about life like we are a 6-year-old smartphone, no, like 2% battery life, no charger in sight, and I want to help you recharge. We look at what's draining your energy, where you're feeling blocked, and I will help you build a plan that fits your current life. I mean, I find this fast, simple. You'll find it fast and simple and totally free. TalkToPerry.com is where you head over there. So let's talk about this. Most people don't need more information or more tips or more motivation. I do share a lot of those, but really it boils down to needing to understand yourself better. That's what actually closes the gap. I have several conversations all the time where people are like, hey, I'm right here. This is where I'm at now. This is where I want to go. I'm figuring out what's holding me back, and there's this gap there, and they keep doing this start and stop cycle toward their goals. Usually it's a health and fitness goal. And here it is again. And finding all the evidence, all the things around them as to, I didn't have a workout partner. I didn't, traffic was bad. Oh, work is too heavy, family issues. You know what? I'm not motivated. And we'll come up with lots of ways to rationalize and justify it, right? But the more honest you get about what's not working, the faster you can move forward. It's just a lot of us, we've gotten so comfortable in what's not working that we stay there. And then we get frustrated. Then we start on something, and then something blocks us again. And then we go back to old patterns. So it really is about understanding how your own thoughts, your patterns, your habits, how they're showing up, and becoming aware of those and really addressing them. A lot of us, we won't address them. We're like, yeah, I'll fix that later. That's future me's problem, right? But when you start doing that, the easier it will become to shift your actions to stay in what this book was called. I think it was by Sullivan and Hardy was the authors, to shift yourself into the gain. Because there's a reason why people stay stuck in cycles. I don't know. This might be you. And if it is, just let me know, because people that are stuck there, they're constantly evaluating their progress based on where they wish they were, instead of giving yourself credit on how far you've come or focusing on what would move the needle forward right now. We get into this old thinking where, and I say old thinking because it comes from old habits and stuff that we've kind of been programmed over the years from either our upbringing, school, etc. But we get into this old thinking about, I've made some progress, but, and then we'll come up and we'll interject something to block it, and we won't move forward. And you can't stay in the gain if you're still measuring your value through that gap. So get radically honest with yourself. Let's talk about what that actually looks like. Here's some strategies that can really help you close that distance. The distance between your current goal, whatever that is, and I would get clear on that, and your current, reality that you're saying. So, speaking of getting clear, that would be one thing, is to get clear on your actual target. I talk to a lot of people and they'll say, well, I just want to lose some weight and get in shape. I'll be like, how will you know what that is? And they'll be like, oh, I'll know. But they really aren't clear. They're very foggy on that. So saying things like, I want to get fit, or I need to be better, that isn't a specific outcome. Ask yourself and get it down. A lot of times we let things swim in our head and we don't get the things down. What specific outcome would make you feel successful right now in real life? Now, this can apply to any goal, right? But I'm talking health and fitness stuff. And then ask yourself, this is the radical honesty part, ask yourself where you are just avoiding the truth. And a lot of times we'll say, well, it's time, it's consistency, it's burnout, it's indecision, it's fear, it's fatigue, whatever it is. Get it down, get honest with yourself about it in a way, just in a way where you're not wasting energy trying to solve the wrong problem. That was me when I realized, I'm like, oh, I just can't get motivated to exercise. I know I want the results, and I don't have time. And I could tick off all the different things I was doing: full-time teacher, hour commute each way, running a dog rescue, had my own home business. I could justify why I didn't have time. But that wasn't really the problem. The real problem was I just wasn't starting my exercise. And the real problem wasn't motivation. I just wasn't starting exercise. So I found it and really got radically honest with myself, found out where the gaps were, and filled them with things that would work for me. Simple systems. So that's one tip there. Another one is just to stop starting over. We get going, something gets in the way, and it's like, oh, I got to start over. I want to make sure I do this thing right. We start over. You don't need a fresh start. You just need steady focus. The self, beating yourself up, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just tired of doing things that aren't aligned to your goal anymore, and you're getting bored with it. You're telling yourself you're unmotivated. You're coming up with as many reasons as possible to say why I'm stuck. So start tracking what's working. Most people don't. I'll ask them, what's working, what's happening for you, or what are your goals, what's your vision, what's your ideal day, and they'll come up with all the things of just the opposite, what's not working. And most people don't realize how much progress they've made because they aren't paying attention to the habits, the awarenesses, the strength that they've built. Just even listening to this podcast should be an applause for you, because the gain, it grows when you acknowledge it. And I learned this from my friend Angie. I love her perspective when she says this. She goes, a goal is not to get. I think that's what a lot of us have been taught. Is like, oh my gosh, I got to set a goal and get there. A goal is not to get. A goal is to grow. And that's where you're going to continue to gain and evolve. And you'll constantly be growing. So reaching a goal does not mean stopping. And I think a lot of us have been programmed to think that way. And hey, speaking of my friend Angie, the one thing is I think is to work with someone who can help you get out of your own head. I've even got a special program that I do that helps people in that manner, because a lot of us, we stay in the gap, and you don't need to figure it all out alone. Sometimes the missing link is just having somebody reflect back what's working and guide you through the next layer of resistance, because the resistance is always coming. The resistance happens when you're saying, there it is. Something always happens. Something always comes up. That's some feedback that's giving you permission to continue forward. But because we aren't going forward, and we get worried and have this self-doubt, we contract and go back to old ways. That's what happened to me over and over and over again, until I realized, here I am. I'm on my hour commute. I haven't even done my workout for the day, and I'm talking myself out of it. I'm giving myself a false promise that I'll make up for it on the weekend, which I never would. Why am I doing that? Why am I telling myself that I need to sit down and relax for an hour to get motivated to work out, which I never did? I kept focusing on the things that weren't working. For you, you might be chasing an old identity. You might be using unrealistic timelines. You might be ignoring your wins because maybe they didn't feel big enough. I drank extra water today. I ate vegetables when I normally don't. The fact that I even started eating vegetables blows my mind and my parents' mind, but I like them now. Talk about that shift once you've focused on the gain instead of obsessing over the gap. We get in our own way so many times. And I'd love to help you shift your energy and help you push through with more effort. Actually, not even push. Flow through with ease and just kind of this ease about it. Because if you've been feeling drained, if you've been feeling unsure of what to fix next, head over to talktoperry.com and let's map out a strategy of what works. What works with your current strategy, not stay in the gap and not be against your strategy, the strategies that you're using, but to find things that are effective. And, let's really talk and map that out. No pressure, of course, just giving you clarity. Talktoperry.com. You don't need to prove anything. That hit me hard one day when somebody said that to me. You don't need to chase motivation or force momentum. That hit differently when I made that perspective shift and took action. The more aligned you are with where you are now and where you want to be, the easier it is to move forward. And you don't need to wait to feel ready. So many of us do that. We set a goal, we get interested, and then we wait to feel ready. We never commit. Start living from the gain, and that path will really get clearer. So just know you can choose to use your power, take control, use the tips that I've just shared with you today. Hop over to talktoperry.com and really help yourself move forward and get radically honest with yourself. Or you can let the excuses, the justifications, the procrastination, the comparison, you can let that control you and drain your power. It really boils down to deciding and committing and taking action on yourself and your goals, and then choosing to figure out new ways, looking at possibilities, learning and growing, and keep moving forward. You've got this, my friend. I'd love to hear your top takeaway from today. You can drop those down in the comments. You absolutely rock, my friend. And as always, remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week. That's another Power Blast podcast in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, when you are ready to recharge your battery, make sure you go to talktoperry.com. That's talktoperry.com. That's Perry. And I want to listen. I want to hear, what's going on. I want to help you in that 15-minute call to recharge your battery and reclaim your power so that you're off and running and creating massive momentum toward your dream. Also, every day, I am delivering more motivation, support, tips, and strategies inside my free community with amazing people like yourself. And we are conquering the mindset and the fitness. I do 52 weeks of free training in there. Plus, I coach and I mentor people, as well as give you access to tons of resources and guides. It's called my Upside Down Fitness Community because we work on a lot of mindset stuff, the inside stuff. And we're a fun group of people striving to make healthier habits in this awesome chapter of life. So make sure you get in there. I promise you'll absolutely love it. Just head over to upsidedownfit.com and you can get into the group. And hey, you would be an awesome friend if you get over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave an honest rating and review for the Power Blast podcast. It helps awesome people like you find the show even faster, and that's who I'm looking for, awesome people like you. That's all I have for this week, my friend, and just to let you know, you absolutely rock. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you on the next Power Blast podcast, and always remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week.